Hey everybody, Melanie Potock just here in my kitchen, and I was just gonna make something for my family, and I thought I'm just gonna share it with all of you because I want to show you how to take a basic recipe that a lot of adults really like and get the kids involved, especially the very picky eaters, and expose them to a lot of different vegetables because we know that exposure is everything. So even if they don't taste it today, what you're doing is getting them involved in the kitchen, exposed to a variety of vegetables. They get to hold the vegetables. Prior to this, maybe they helped you wash them, maybe they helped you shop for them. But here, let me show you what I mean because this is my ultimate favorite veggie salad. And I want to give credit where credit's due. You can always know when you have a cookbook that is loved and worn, like the Velveteen Rabbit. I've had this cookbook for years. It's by the Junior League of Colorado. It's Creme de Colorado. It's very fancy. And you can tell I've got so many pages marked. I love so many of the recipes here. This one is actually their Millionaire's Veggie Salad, but I'm going to adapt it, show you how I make it with my family, but also show you how to make it with your kids, especially if you've got picky eaters. All right, here's the great thing about it. You can use packaged veggies, you can use fresh veggies, you can use whatever you want. I happen to use mostly packaged today, but I went ahead just to kind of keep this video short for all of you, and I chopped them up. Now, when you're working with kids, it's great if they can be involved in this. So you can use your Kumri Khan doggy knives that you can find in the back of my book, Adventures in Veggieland, or if you have my other book, Raising a Healthy Happy Eater, you can find out how to order these as well. When kids are chopping up various veggies like celery, etc., that's great, but one of the things that really helps them understand the various sensory properties of veggies, especially raw veggies, is to have them pull apart. Like I have this gorgeous purple cauliflower here, and maybe when you're washing it together, they can also just kind of crumble it and pull it apart to use later when we make our salad. When the kids are chopping, pulling things apart, picking out just the right size carrot, they have some ownership in the dish, yet there's no pressure to take a bite. So speaking of that, make sure that we all wash our hands for a good 20 seconds with nice warm water and soap to make sure we've got clean hands, but we can still experience all the sensory properties. Here's what I love about this particular recipe. You really don't need any more than 1 measuring cup, and that's only for the dressing. So after you chop up whatever veggies you want, but I'll show you which ones I use the most in this salad, then the kids learn how much they should pick up in their hand and toss into your big container. I usually use something like, a big plastic container like this because we are going to stir it really well with the dressing. Put the lid on, and later on you can just kind of shake it to make sure that that dressing is well distributed. Okay, so here's what I mean. If your kids are hesitant to pick up various vegetables, the great thing is you've got the container right here. They can either pick the veggies up one at a time and put them in, or have them figure out about how much goes in their hand. So it's just like the size of a softball. And they can grab a handful. It's okay if they don't get them all. I'll tell you why in a sec. Handful of carrots, maybe a handful of onions, or you know what, if you want to go light on those, you could call it a half a handful. Maybe a handful of mushrooms. I love mushrooms. They're loaded with vitamin D, which is so important for your immune system. But if your kid's a little more hesitant about that, again, they can put them in one at a time or go with a half a handful. Remember, if there's some left over on the plate, hang in there with me, we're gonna use those. All right, a handful of cauliflower, in this case, beautiful purple cauliflower, and also a handful of sugar snap peas. And then, just so you guys can see the difference, for the broccoli that I'm gonna include today, I blanched it for about 30 seconds. And I just do that to kind of brighten it up a little bit. Let me show you the difference. I'll come a little closer to the camera for you. See, this is broccoli in the bag. Look at the bright color you get from blanching. Plus, as you found out on some of my other videos, Blanching adds more moisture but keeps the crunch for veggies. So for a lot of children, a blanched vegetable is easier for them to manage in their mouth than a really crunchy, drier piece of raw broccoli. So again, it's gonna be a little bit wetter feeling for them, but now about a handful of that, totally fine to have some left over. And then if you want, you can also add some drained artichoke hearts, or what I'm gonna add today are some black olives, and I've drained these. And you know, don't forget, black olives on your finger are like the funnest. So make sure the kids get to play with the food as well. So easy, right? Look at all those different veggies. All right, now we're gonna add our dressing. Here's why I love this recipe too, is because the dressing only requires 1 measuring cup, and that's the 1/3 measuring cup. And you're going to put 1/3 of olive oil, 1/3 cup of your other oil. I usually just use like a basic vegetable oil, but whatever you'd like. Avocado oil works really well too. So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of balsamic vinegar. So you can just see the kids being able to use the exact same cup every time. Hold it over the pan that you're going to heat it up on the stove. 1/3 of white vinegar. I'm going to run that by you one more time. 1/3 of your choice of oil. I usually choose vegetable oil. Avocado oil works well too. 1/3 of olive oil, 1/3 of balsamic, and 1/3 of white vinegar. Then what you do is all of that goes on a pan on the stove, and to that pan you're going to add a teaspoon of basil dried, a teaspoon of oregano dried. I usually don't actually use a measuring teaspoon. I like the kids to learn what a teaspoon looks like in their hand, because if they can just shake out about a teaspoon, it's about like that, into their hand, and they want to throw it into the dressing, they can also smell it. And after they toss it into the dressing, they can smell their hands too. I think that's really important, because I want kids to realize that we are able to change the flavor of almost anything we cook by adding herbs, spices, salt, pepper, etc., etc., etc. I want kids to be able to take a taste as we cook, and it's totally fine if they don't think it tastes good. The bigger question is, what could we add to it to suit your palate? You've probably heard me say that in a variety of videos. That's because it's so important. All right, my friends. So, get rid of my little bit of basil and oregano there. The other thing you're gonna do is a teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of sugar. So your 4 dry ingredients in your marinade are teaspoon of basil, teaspoon of oregano, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of sugar. Easy, right? Then go ahead and let your veggie marinade, I don't know if you guys can see it very well in there, there's not much, come to a boil and immediately take it down to simmer. Just let it lightly simmer on the stove for like 10 minutes, and then it's the warm marinade that you're going to pour, the kids can help you with this, over the veggies. All right. And then, you know, as long as we all have clean hands, we're all in the same family, I love it if the kids get in and actually stir up the veggies with their hands. But of course, you can also use a slotted spoon. And then put it in the refrigerator for a couple hours. You could eat it right now if you wanted to, but oh my goodness, in 2 hours, it is so yummy. Every time I take this to a party, people just rave about it. It's so pretty. The other thing to know is the marinade, as days go on, this will keep for 3 or 4 days if you make a really big batch. The marinade sits at the bottom of the bowl, so bring the kids back into the kitchen, give them the slotted spoon and say, hey, can you just get that marinade all over those yummy veggies again? You're exposing them one more time. So normally, I fill this entire container up with veggies, and my family goes through it in about 3 days. And I probably make this recipe, I think I make it like 3 times a month. Like, that's how much we love it. So give it a try, get the kids involved, and then you're probably wondering, what about these leftover veggies, right? Well, The reason why I don't like kids to be that accurate, dumping it all into the salad, is because I want these leftovers. I want the kids to have the opportunity to add these to other things, to maybe dip them into hummus, to, even dip them into ranch dressing, or just try them raw, or play with them. If you've got my book, Adventures in Veggieland, you know that I really believe in food play to help kids develop veggie love. Last tip for you, you can also, as they're picking up the handful and putting it in the big container, you can ask them to pick their favorite veggies and put it in a very small container. So maybe they're really brave and they pick a mushroom, they pick this beautiful purple cauliflower, looks like a big purple tree, and maybe a sugar snap pea. Now they can have that later at lunch or dinner because they chose it. They don't have to eat it. But it's theirs. They took some ownership of it. There's just a little bit. And it's the kind of thing you can cover with some saran wrap and you can reserve the next day too. I hope you guys find that helpful. I've always wanted to share that recipe with you, and I thought, as long as I'm making it for my family tonight, I wanted to share it with all of you. If you've got any questions, just let me know in the comments. Bye, everybody.